All right. All right. Well, good evening, everybody. It is Wednesday evening, which means that it is time for Journey to Self. It is time to take a moment and for us to take a pause and to come together as a community and to explore another aspect of the journey to self. So, welcome. This is our masterclass series where we talk about our life journeys and give you the spiritual and practical tools for your individual transformation. Today, we are going to have Chelsey, who is going to be teaching us about dreams and what can we learn from them and when dreams wake you up. I'm so excited. I know so little about this topic. And I think all of us are equally excited to delve into this because this is a little different from what we've done up to now. So we're really excited to expand on the topics that we cover here. Okay. So, as you know, this is a place where we like to share extraordinary stories of everyday people, and we invite you into our conversation. Before we begin, let's do quick introductions. All right, let's start with Laura. Laura, maybe you can wave so that people can see who you are. Good evening, Laura. She is joining us from the West Coast on the Pacific time zone, and she is a transformational coach and a transformational business coach. So she is our go-to lady for all things transformation. Chrissy, maybe you can wave. Awesome. Chrissy is a transformational relationship coach. So she is our relationship guru, and she did an amazing session last week. If you didn't catch it, make sure you check it out. It was all around attachment issues. And then today we're going to have Chelsey on the docket, and she's going to talk about all things dreams. And she is a dreams analysis coach. And I'm Vicki. I am a life coach. So I am so excited to delve in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Chelsey. Chelsey is going to walk us through. We're going to have about 45 minutes is going to be masterclass, where we're going to really delve into the topic. And after that, we open up the space and we welcome you to ask questions, to give us your feedback, to even come live with us and get coached on the spot. So we are here to be of service to you, and we're so excited to be sharing this evening with you. All right, without further ado, I turn it over to you, my friend Chelsey, and let's dive right in.
Hi, thank you. That was beautiful. Yeah, I'm excited for this. So the reason why I'm excited is because it was through my own personal experiences, through my dreams, that woke me up. And what I mean by the topic of tonight is waking up consciously to yourself on an internal aspect, but also spiritually and all of our experiences in dreamland. So I guess I'll start out first just sharing off my experience a little bit. It started about 4 or 5 years ago. I had a dream journal that I was keeping up with, and I'd always had like vivid dreams, weird dreams, and like I would write them down in my diary sometimes. But at some point, about a couple of years ago, I decided I was just having a journal on my dreams. And it really got me going in a lot of circles because it was like really confusing and there's so much going on and it was getting my attention and it was kind of upsetting me a little bit at different points through the journey of trying to sort it out. And like at the time, I really don't know what I know now. So I was, I wish I did, but it's the journey of it, which is funny. But so at times I was sitting there looking at dreams individually and I was trying to dissect them. But one day I was like really looking through my journal on a larger scale. And I started noticing different patterns and themes going on and like progression of flow and stuff. So that's at the point where I started focusing on a large scale. Things that caught my attention at first was that I was having out of body experiences at night, which were very strange and hard to admit what it really was at that time. So it got my ego side or my analytical, logical side really trying to explore realms in the daytime, like different studies and books that would get me like, what's going on here? And then I was also having dreams where like my masculine side was really coming out strong and it like, and I was always like, who is this man in my dreams? And it's not the same face all the time, but it was this energy or feeling that I would recognize and that I found comforting, but I couldn't tell who or what it was. And that took me a while to figure out that it was me. Thanks to Carl Jung, I did eventually stumble on Carl Jung, and he really explained archetypes, your internal aspects a little bit. He does the internal aspects kind of like really basic. So like later on, I came across internal family system, or the IFS, which really broke that down into like this huge psychoanalyzing. But at the time, I was basically waking up to myself. Like I was struggling with depression. I was going through a lot of stuff in my personal life. And I was like, something's got to give. And I was like, it was to the point where my dreams were actually harassing me. Not just on the internal aspects, but I was having like metaphysical dreams uh, very often, more so than I am now. And those were actually kind of scary at first, because I was kind of first awakening to it all without knowing I was going through an awakening. That's why I say my dreams woke me up. It was I was experiencing like demons chasing me around in realms. I had to learn how to use my aura as a shield, or as a, turn into a little weapon to smack them off me and stuff. I got very creative. So like the cool thing with dreams is you can be as creative as you want a little bit. Um, and it was a self-discovery journey, and it was a soul journey. I was having dreams with my higher self quite often, which I consider to be probably like a good part of my soul on a multidimensional aspect. So like your higher self is who you want to become, kind of thing, or embody. And so I always said she was like the perfect me, and I was the one living in the shadows. And she was always like my internal guide, guiding me in my dreams a little bit. And, at the time, I didn't really fully understand what that was either. I just knew that I kept having dreams where I was talking to myself physically face to face, but she was glowing. And I had some daytime experiences with her. So I kind of knew that it was something familiar, but I didn't know the term higher self at the time yet. But I could just tell she was the perfected version of me, trying to reach out to me and my, mess of a life at the time. Um, so that I feel like that's internal, but it still feels metaphysical a little bit. So higher self gets a little archetype weird a tad bit. But so it's this idea that you're really exploring yourself on an internal level. You're exploring all the nooks and crannies, and the subconsciousness really thrives at night because your conscious aspects are resting. So at that point, it's just like the children come out to play a little bit, or it gets a little crazy. Um, but it's fun because once you really start dissecting and going through it, you realize a lot of these aspects are you, and they all have messages of balance. So it's this internal awareness and waking up to yourself. I also had a lot of dreams at the time with my guides, my grandmother who had passed away, um, and like angels and demons. So it was a very metaphysical experience too. So it woke me up to spirituality and my intuition and exploring my soul and this journey. So that's why I kind of chose the theme a little bit from my own, because it does wake you up. When you explore your dreams, it wakes you up. And I've seen it in my sessions with my clients. Some of them come to me they know they have a curiosity for dreams, but they're not necessarily spiritual or religious. They're just wanting to explore it, it's interesting. And yeah, a lot of them have become spiritually inclined, or practicing the woo woo, or really embracing their intuition. And I've got to witness like what I call my poster child, the client that's been with me the longest, is about 8 months now. And I watched him go from an internal family breakdown to like phase 2 of the soul journey, and where he was meeting his guides. They were giving him lessons about his past life regressions, lessons of what was going on planet Earth, and how he was, available to help. And, like saying that some people have been sent here to help out, and that he was one, and they were starting to teach him some special abilities. It gets really wild, but like those would be the metaphysical. So I always break dreams down into metaphorical, which would be your internal family system, and then the external would be the metaphysical aspects of dreams. And it's a wide open door when you explore dreams. So does anyone have any questions, I suppose? Because I know you guys have a lot. So let's make this a conversation where I'm not just talking the whole time. Share stories, tell us your dreams. Let's play.
I love that. Let's play.
Anybody?
Yeah, I have a story to share. So, my dreams actually did wake me up. I mean, I was going through, it was one of the things I was going through trauma at the time, and I did not want to continue on with learning martial arts. Not because I had anything against it. It was just there was just a lot of stuff interwoven in there, and there was a lot of emotion, and there was just a lot of stuff that I wanted to run away from. So it was actually totally me being resistant to waking up. So it's actually kind of funny, this story, because I had a dream, and it's funny because I remember it crystal clear. Like, you know, those dreams that you just can recall, and it's so vivid, but it made no sense at the time, and now I understand. But the dream was that I was riding like a scooter through space. And I had like one of those helmets on, and I was a spaghetti delivery driver, you guys. A spaghetti delivery driver. Okay. That was my whole job. And a requirement of this job was to learn kung fu. And I remember I argued with the whole concept of it. I was like, this is ridiculous. I don't need to learn kung fu for this job. Like, is it dangerous? No. You know, well, then why do I need to learn it? And I remember I would just think about that dream for months and months and months. So now it makes more sense to me, because the whole aspect of kung fu is, you know, kung fu is life. It really is. So when you're taking the art and you're transferring it into life, there's like this mirror in kung fu and everything that you do, you know, wax on, wax off, all the Karate Kid stuff is very true. But anyways, I think that was the most weirdest, most vivid dream I've ever had that was as bizarre as that. So, why it had anything to do with spaghetti, I don't know. I really don't know.
It's so wild, isn't it? I have a story, and then I'll have Chelsey kind of answer. It's one I told you guys, but I'm going to share it for the audience, and then Chelsey can kind of delve into this. And that's the story I had about like where I had the conversation with. And let me just back up. Like, I haven't remembered my dreams for a while. Like, it's kind of been hit and miss with me, and now all of a sudden, like, I'm remembering them more and more. And like I woke up, just some crazy stuff. But the other night I had this dream where I went to my friend, who's a friend who I think has some internal struggles and just isn't aware of it yet. And I feel like I feel like it's there. I feel like she'll come around, but it just isn't happening. And so I had this dream, and it was very brief, but I still remember it, where I was talking with her, and I was like telling her how great she is and how special she is. And I was like, I just wish you would love yourself and know this. And all I remember is seeing, she was just crying, and she was like, I know that I don't love myself, and I don't know what to do about it. And that's really all I remember. And so I reached out to these girls, and I said, okay, hey guys, like, what does this mean? Could my soul actually have been traveling with her soul in the middle of the night and talking? And so Chelsey, if you want to touch on that, I know we kind of talked about it earlier, but
Yeah, no, I like that, because I feel like it has dual meaning, because like you already had the concern in daytime, right? And the
yes.
awareness of it. But the fact that you felt that you had connected with her soul, I
Mhm.
think that resonates. So like I always say, whatever the dreamer senses in that is and resonates with is accurate. I never tell someone it's, you know, they're right or they're wrong or anything like that.
Mhm.
So no, I think you definitely did connect it with her soul, and that's quite common. And we do that a lot. Like, so like for me, I've had like random examples. I always say like my cell phone. I don't know why, but my cell phone is something that always does that in dreams. Like I'll sit there and like pull up my phone and look at it in dreamland, because it's something I do all the time. And then all of a sudden I feel like whoever I'm getting a message from in the dream, I connect with almost like a out of body or soul connection. And it's like I'm really actually talking to them. And it's not just because it's something you sense deep down. Like it's hard to explain, but like when you know it, if that makes sense. What's an internal dream at the end of the day, and like what was you, but then you also know when you experience something consciously outside of your own consciousness. And like, so I would imagine, yeah, you probably did have this moment with her where you were talking about,
Or like
inner
like her
love and the
subconscious
self-love.
souls were kind of connecting in dreamland.
Yeah.
And then I happen to remember it. I'm sure I didn't even ask her if she had any dream. Like, I'm sure she doesn't remember it, because it's, she's still like, she's not aware yet. So anyway, okay.
You never know though. I always ask people if I have a dream that strongly, I
Uh-huh.
always kind of low key bring it up. We like,
Really?
yeah.
Okay. Maybe I'll just have to like I won't tell her what we talked about, just like low key,
You're
like
like, I
"Hey,
hung
dreams
out
about me
with
today."
you last night, I'm pretty sure. Oh, it's so funny.
So Chelsey, I have an interest. Well, what I think is interesting. I don't remember any of my dreams. I know, so it's weird. I wake up and I know I've been dreaming very vividly. But then like a few minutes in and I can't remember it. Like by the time I'm in the shower, I can't remember the dreams. Some dreams will stay with me the entire day, but I'm not like one of those people who really remembers their dreams. But my sister and I have this conversation all the time, and I know I shared this with you. So I'll share a little bit of the background. So I come from a divorced family, right? And for whatever reasons, like I had a really hard time forgiving my father for what he had done, right? Now, my dad had passed away a while ago. And even after he had passed away, even though everybody says, well, you know, they've paid for their sins when they've passed away, you shouldn't hold a grudge. Well, I continue to hold a grudge, right? And so, whereas my sister, she was always really, really close with my dad. And I think she was more forgiving of him than I was. And so she talks all the time. Oh, dad visits me in my dreams all the time. Oh, I see dad all the time. Oh, I see grandma and she like all of their loved ones who have passed away visit her in her dreams. Meanwhile, I'm like, nobody ever visits me in my dreams. No one ever comes to me and has conversations with me, right? Of the loved ones that have passed on. So I'd love your perspective on like, what do you think might be happening there? Is it that I'm truly like not connected to any of my family members that have passed away? Is she more connected? Like, what is happening there? I'm just super curious.
I'm sure they're trying to reach out to you. You might just have a harder space in dreams. So just start practicing more intentions. Like I always tell people, like, there's a million different ways you could go about this. I know mindfulness, and we practice mindfulness, but maybe while you're lying in bed, just like meditate before you fall asleep and meditate into sleepness by setting intentions. I always tell people to suggest that. But it takes practice. It's like a muscle, like dream awareness is like a muscle. So like, I'm sure you're experiencing them or they're trying to experience you. And you might just have like a thicker wall up on that. Your sister seems like she's very open-minded to it. And with your dad, that's a hard one because I do understand how that is. And like sometimes I think maybe there's like an emotional blocker a tad bit. So like maybe if you try to work in daytime on like actually like trying to dig deeper in the forgiveness thing and like talk to him during the day, like what we do during the day affects how we do at night. So like, like I don't know if you like, do you ever talk to your past loved ones during the day, or if something reminds you of them during the day, be like, I love you, grandma, or,
Oh.
like things like that, like try to interact with them during the day more. It's opening a connection or a line really. So like, I don't think dreams are necessarily special in that. I think they're just easier because it's such a interesting space that has like this front door a little bit to it. But daytime we can see like synchronicities and we could see like little signs and stuff, right? But I think when we start to interact back with it, it kind of opens the phone line to go both ways too. So like, I don't know, if you wanted to talk to your dad, maybe the next time you're kind of out and about, and if you, I don't know, notice something that might trigger a memory with your dad or some nostalgia. Oh,
No, you're still here. You're good.
I am. My screen
Yeah.
just went blue. That was so weird.
No, you're here.
Oh, now I'm back. Okay, sorry. I thought
think-
my computer shut off.
Nope, you're good. But Chelsey, I think you're saying something really interesting, and I want to double click into that because you just said if you want to talk to your dad, and you also said you might have a wall up and a resistance. And I think you're spot on. I never want to talk to him. Like I never have any desire to talk to him. And I wonder if my sister's connection, emotional connection, is that much closer to him, and that is why maybe he visits her and communicates with her in her dreams. Because you're absolutely right, I never ever try to establish any kind of connection with him.
Yeah, it's still a relationship. Like
Mhm.
it's not a magic trick, right? It's a relationship. So when we think of metaphysics like that, especially with past loved ones, like the people who tend to be closest to the actual real life experience are the ones who are usually experiencing them in the metaphysical. Um, I'm not saying that it's not impossible. Like, he probably is trying to send you stuff, or maybe tiny messages or something symbolic, and it might just be just something small. It's slightly getting through the message line, right? But like, so like I'm really close with my grandmother, and she had passed away probably 3 years ago. But like immediately she showed up in my dreams that night, and I felt, but while I was falling asleep, I felt like she had just was snuggling me a little bit, and I felt her love and presence, right? As then I knew she had died a few hours prior, and I was okay. I wasn't crying or freaking out because I knew she was sick, and like I have a good relationship with death, so I wasn't trying to like freak out. But like I felt her presence before I fell asleep, and then I really wasn't planning on doing anything because I hadn't started doing my own like awakening yet. But like I guess I was slightly more spiritual than I realized, because obviously I knew I was gonna, I don't know, it was weird. I wasn't awakened yet, but it was something there. And that night I dreamt that I was standing at like these gates of heaven. It was just like this big gold arch with whiteness everywhere, right? White energy. And like she had, or no, she was waiting for me. Sorry, I got that backwards. I walked up to the gate and she's sitting there waiting for me with her hands out, and she gives me this hug. And like I remember kind of walking through the entrance, but then I don't remember anything else after that, which is normal. It's always the coolest parts we don't, it's like we shut ourselves off from the memory of some streams. But like I don't remember what it looked like inside. I just remember the feeling of this emotion of loving her, and she was just happy and at peace, and I got to walk her into heaven basically. And I was always the closest grandchild with her though too, and I spent the most time with her, and I always was interested in, to her. I was always asking her questions. She was very spiritual. So I'd ask her about Edgar Casey and like a bunch of other things. And it was always secret in a religious family. So like uh she low key like corrupted me. But yeah, she was good. But and then I know my sister has dreams with her, and so does one of my other cousins. And as far as I know, no one else does. So I think it's still the way, it's a relationship. And now when she's gone, every time I smell green peppers, I think of her, and I like immediately connect or try to connect with her, or just send her like a mindful text message, like, I miss you, I love you,
Aw.
things like that. Like if it's someone I care about and I want to interact with, I interact with them, not just in dreams, or I don't wait for I don't wait for it to happen. I make it happen in a sense. Like, if it, and then like I had an ex-boyfriend that died probably about a decade ago, and I was in Las Vegas at a trade show, and we were just setting up our booth for the day, and I was done. I was exhausted. I flew in that day, set it up, didn't even get to the hotel room yet. So I went out with a cigarette, forgot a lighter. So all these people were in groups smoking. It was like 2 weeks after he died, and I saw him standing by the semi trucks, like 20 feet away from me, in flesh. Like it was crazy. Like he looked definitely alive. I've never had an experience like that before. And like I went up to him, asked him for a lighter. He did not talk at all. He just sat there and like glowed gold and smiled a lot. And he just looked very like angelic and happy. And I've never had an experience like that before. I talked to him for a few minutes, told him he looked like someone that I was very close to that had died, and he just grinned real big. And he just kept grinning and smiling. And then after that, um, I never had an experience like that in daytime ever in my life, ever again. So I consider it a gift. But like he appears in my dreams a lot too, and like he sends messages in butterflies, like, so I hear him in the daytime and at night, not all the time. And like I can go like a year and a half without hearing from him, right? But like I do see how like it's certain, um I set what I do is I set certain symbolic meaning during the day too, to open the line for connection. So like it's learning how to like kind of interact with the dead a little bit, but in a good way. And it does represent in dreams too. So like maybe your dad you won't want to experience right away, but maybe there's other relatives that you really like. way better.
I do.
And you can genuinely open your heart up to them to come in. And yeah, I say it's funny because we talk about chakras, and isn't the heart chakra considered the universal language, or like the phone line kind of? I don't know, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but
No,
I,
you're right.
I think I've heard
You're
that.
Yeah, and it reminds me, Chelsey, if you're correct me if you have a maybe, or just you might have another perspective on this. But when I first learned how to connect with spirits, I would always ask, like, I always wanted a sign from my sister. Why did you die? Why did it have to go this way? And I realized that the pain that I felt when I was trying to connect with her was actually a block, because there's a lot of dense energy on top of the frequency that I needed to get to come up to her level. Because what happens in spirit is they're vibrating at a very high frequency, and we're in dense matter. They're not in dense matter, but we are. And so when people cross into spirit, they have to learn the language to lower their vibration, and we have to lift ours. And so when I first learned to communicate with my dad, he died when I was 16, and I never figured it out until I was like in my late 30s. I was, what I did is I felt the vibration of love, the happy memories. I could hardly find any, but I still needed to find that vibration of love for him and with him. And then ask for a sign, because that is how he got the message. And now I feel like in my dreams, I'm always communicating with people, because I wake up and I remember them and I don't remember them. And I think the remembering doesn't really have a lot to do with whether it's happening or not, because that's on an unconscious level, and our soul is very aware of that communication all the time, even if we don't remember it. But I think in our dreams, if we're meant to remember it, we will. But if there's that emotional trauma or pain that hasn't been healed, then you're not going to remember anything that's going to hurt you. So, for me, again, my instructions were to lift my vibration by thinking about the loving feelings, ask for a sign, say it's okay if you come into my dreams. And you can tell yourself to make sure that you remember your dreams. That's another story I'll share. But when I get back to my whole the dreams waking me up aspect, because they kind of did when I started the dream journal. Chelsey's like, here's my dream journal, and I did it for a while. I actually had to stop doing it because I was getting so freaked out. This is a few years ago. Now I just am like, that was an interesting one. But yeah, I'll share that story here in a bit.
Question. And I don't know, I guess, and Chelsey, you can answer this, and or anybody, I guess, really, but so like, how do you, I mean, do we have people, because I've never lost anybody close to me. Like, I have grandparents who have passed, but we were never close. I know I have ancestors, obviously, but like my parents are still alive. I was an only child. So how can you connect? I mean, can you connect with like ancestors and even grandparents that maybe you weren't close with? Like, how would you get them to come into your dream? I guess, is there another way, or is it just kind of what you've been saying about like,
yeah, setting intention. And I like how Laura said, like, she gave permission and she was trying to create this connection too. Like, each person's different. I'm not going to tell you it's black and white, but
yeah,
I just know that setting intention and talking about it does a lot, like consciously being aware of it.
okay.
I have clients who are like, oh, I don't really remember my dreams. And by the time we make it to our first session, they're like, I had a lot of dreams this week. It's so funny. And they like think it's ironic. And I was like, I think when we put awareness on our dreams or intention on our dreams, we do like, yeah,
So
it
that
comes
would,
out like a floodgate sometimes.
yeah, that would make sense, because I haven't really, I'm like Vicky, I had not remembered my dreams for a while. I think I told you guys this, like, I'm like, I haven't even remembered, like literally up to 2 weeks ago, I was not remembering my dreams. And this past week, and this is just now like clicking, as we're talking about doing this live right here, we've been talking about dreams. I've noticed I've been telling myself at night, like, I'm going to remember my dreams. And I've noticed I have started to remember them now. So
Yeah.
wild. Okay.
That's why we're consciously waking up too,
Yeah. Okay.
to the dreams, to ourselves,
Yeah.
to just what's going on around us. So it's a conscious awakening, all kinds of awakenings.
Oh, all kinds of awakenings.
So a cool story to kind of get some different perspective, because we're talking a lot of metaphysics, but working with
Okay.
guides, because like we all have a guide, and it's, yes, we have our internal guide, but we seem I think a lot of us have like an external guide too.
Hmm.
So like earlier this year, I was having these experiences with my guides, where they're putting their hands over my eyes and they're telling me that I had to use my my third eye, my fourth eye. And like it happened all the time. And at some point, probably after like 3 months, it stopped and it hasn't happened again. But now I've noticed while I'm sleeping, like I'm like, my eyes are closed, but I'm staring at like my room and I'm just like, or the ceiling. I'm just like, feel like I'm seeing with my eyes closed. So it's the idea that like, we learn a lot while we're sleeping. Like Tesla talked about how he learned a lot of things in his dreams that kind of connected dots. So I always say let the subconsciousness sift through stuff, right? Because it can understand way more detail and less stress than the conscious aspect of ourselves. But we're also learning from our guides too and like other conscious beings. So like, now I kind of laugh because I was like, okay, I was learning how to view through my third eye. And then when I told someone else about it, he's like, I've been having the same experiences. That's crazy, like almost identical. And I was like, oh, this is a thing. That's crazy that they force you to use your third eye, like force you to practice using your third eye. It's like sleeping, your eyes are closed, but you're seeing. Now I try to practice it more during the day, but not so much because like my life's been a little hectic lately. But like I used to sit there and just like put the intention into daytime and see if it happens over time. I don't know, it'd be cool. But no, I'd like, now I have like this digital alarm clock I like to have next to the bed. This just to match up the time to see if what I'm staring at is not just a visual memory, but actually current time. So like there's a lot of cool things that go on dreams. Like in the dream analysis sessions, I've seen all kinds of stuff. It's wild. Sometimes it's just jaw dropping and I'm like, oh my God.
Can you
It's
explain a little
wild.
bit? And I don't know if, I don't, unless anybody else wanted to touch on that, but what exactly, because I guess I don't even really know, a dream analysis coach, like what does that entail? Like when you have clients, like do they tell you your dreams and you help decipher them? Like, how does that work? 'Cause I don't really
Okay.
know.
Okay. So I demand everybody to keep a dream journal.
Okay.
Don't come if you're not keeping a dream journal because
Okay.
we have nothing to talk about because you'll forget half the shit. Sorry, I cussed.
Hey, you're good.
But so we keep the dream journals. I don't just interpret one dream, I interpret all the dreams. And I always say each dream is a tiny puzzle piece that creates a larger picture. So they all flow together and like, so I'm sitting here taking one dream, dissecting the flow or whatever that would mean. And then we're like, and of course, I'm not telling them what it means, but like I have a good idea. But I get to know them well enough where I can kind of get in their head too, which is funny because I feel like sometimes it's just weird getting into people's head like that. But I'm learning their personal symbolism. I'm trying to understand what's going on with the internal family system, what's the insecurities and all this and how it represents in the metaphysical experiences or the soul journey aspect too. So like we get in some very in-depth conversations. I spend the first 45 minutes usually trying to do the dream analysis, picking out the parts. We tend to notice patterns from the internal family system. We take note on things that are metaphysical. And then we also, anything that I can't figure out at the moment or that just seems up in the air, we put it on the back burner because it usually pops up again later. So we just allow room for that to evolve. So like it's to the point like if you work with me for a couple months, we'll end up like scrolling back to like a couple dreams past and we'll be, if there's something going on in the current that's resembling a pattern, we'll go back to it. So there's like a lot of patterns and each person's patterns are different. It could be color coded. It could be like this feeling.
Oh,
It could
color
be a
coded.
specific symbol. Like everyone's unique with how so it takes a lot to get it know. Um, Only
Wow.
once have I showed up in one of my clients' dreams, and it was the one that's been with me the longest. We were working on his feminine and masculine side, and we were tracking patterns from his feminine side, which would be like intuition, which we already had the intuition popping up as like a blue phoenix. So it was like very creative, right? And then you had the two wolves, the feminine, the masculine, the inner child. And then it was funny because we were making jokes about how his feminine is always a redhead, and we're like, don't push the red button. And apparently I showed up in his dreams and I said, push the red button, and then I disappeared.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
And I said that's funny. I was like, you should push the red button. It's like letting it loose, kind of like getting your feminine nature a bit out there in the sense of creation and all that. But yeah, it gets really fun. And then we like people are trying to understand the difference between the feminine and masculine, how to brace it in the daytime. Even the inner child comes out because we all have inner child, right? So like the inner child has a lot of insecurities, things it wants, things it's lacking, wanting. So they all want to have a place in your daytime. So we have conversations the last 45 minutes where we're trying to embrace, how do we apply this to our life? Sometimes we're talking deep concepts to help like the ego ease into it. So it depends on each person, but ideally it goes through phases. So like maybe at first we're talking about concepts a lot and like how to embrace some of this stuff, but where is our belief system in all of it? So usually working with the ego a lot and in trying to get it to ease into the subconscious aspects that is exiled, as well as kind of challenging its reality. It's a big one. So we talk a lot about perceptions of reality in my sessions too, and like it gets fun. Like I'm not telling people what to believe or do, or it's a teamwork effort. And that's something I always say, it has to be teamwork effort. By the time you leave me, I want you to be able to do this yourself, and yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. We explore a lot of concepts and things and some really deep conversations. Yeah.
So one of the experiences that I had, I don't know if it was Jose Silva. I can't remember. It was like maybe getting help from the other side. It was some book, and it had like the instructions on how to it wasn't getting help from the other side. It might have been Jose Silva. Anyway, he just uses the power of the mind to do things. And I was going through a really hard time in my career change because my job was very logical. I did legal writing for years. I was an empath though, so I had to like merge these two parts of me. It was very hard to do that because legal writing is not emotional, and then it is in certain spots. So it's like you turn it on, you have to turn it off. You turn it on, turn it off. So anyways, I was changing my careers and I was trying to be a coach. And I was so frustrated over the process. I was like, I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. So I tuned into my dreams for help. And I'm like, well, and my instructions were to demand that I remember them and ask for guidance and to write them down every day. So I did that. Oh my gosh, you guys, every morning I'd wake up and I was having a dream about being pregnant. And it was on a walk while I was pregnant, doing some marathon and I was pregnant, visiting people and I was pregnant, and some halfway house and I was pregnant. And I was writing these dreams down in great detail in my dream journal. And I was terrified. I was like, you guys, I'm in my 40s. I can't have any kids, right?
Paranoia
So
kicks in.
yeah, so I was like, I have to stop this. We're not doing this. I'm too old for babies, because that is the literal concept that I didnn know, but I was like, if this is literal, I can't do this. This isn't my calling. So, but, and that went on. I mean, I stopped journaling about it because I was just like tired of the same message over and over again. But then one day I had twins, like in my dream, like I had twins. So I had like given birth to this thing. And so what my dream told me was that we don't walk around pregnant as women going like, I want this right now. This has to happen right now. I need to have this baby like now. And so what I was doing is something was growing inside of me. There was a part of me that I was birthing, that was coming to life. And I was not okay with where I was. I wasn't accepting my moment. And so by not accepting where I was on the journey of that pregnancy journey, or whatever you want to call it, I was actually ruining my days because I was wanting to be somewhere that I wasn't. And I was wanting to get to somewhere that I didn't have the experience to be. And I also learned that I was comparing myself to others too, right? Like, oh, well, this person can do this and this person can do this. And, and here I am still trying to figure things out. And just by doing that, I was shown that all of that is just getting me confused. I'm getting in my own way, and I need to just embrace the journey like a pregnancy. And then you get to meet this other amazing part of you that is actually growing, because there's a part of you that's also shedding through the process. And so, that was just one of the how my dreams woke me up, because I was like, oh, okay, me constantly wanting to be somewhere else, doing something else, being something else, I'm missing out on the fact that I am already all of those things. I'm just building up frustration and creating a negative experience of life. Why would I do that? So I was able to just say, okay, I'm going to show up to life, and I'm just going to go through the motions. And if I'm supposed to be, whatever I'm supposed to be doing every day is what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'll just follow that instead of trying to make it something that it's not. So my dreams were telling me, and luckily I have had a child, so I have been pregnant, right? So I think it was the universe's way, or my higher self's way, of saying, just, you can't rush this process or you're going to have something premature. So
How did you figure that out? I have to ask, like, was it just a lot of like, you just kept writing it down, and like eventually the thought came to you, like, this is what these dreams mean? Like, okay.
yeah. So for probably, like, for the whole time I kept the dream journal, I didn't know. It wasn't until I actually went like 2 or 3 months later and read through it, like Chelsey said,
Oh.
that I could see the pattern. And I was like, oh, okay. And as I was reading it, it was very obvious to me that it wasn't a physical, actual child. And if it was, I learned acceptance of that too, right? Because I was like, okay, if that's what I'm supposed to do, whatever. But your higher self does kind of, or your guides or whoever is whispering in your ear while you're looking at your dream journal. I swear they're there going, like, because you get these insights and you get this guidance and you get this, you have these aha moments where you're like, oh, okay. And then, the dreams do continue to where you'll have, that end result. I had a baby, but I didn't actually have a baby in physical, right? So, so it becomes very obvious, but not in the moment. It's definitely an after the fact thing for me. But now I analyze my dreams right away, first thing in the morning. Chelsey, you probably do too. I don't know if you still write them down, but
A mix of both.
yeah, I should write them down. Sometimes they're so profound, I want to write them down, but
I say the same thing too. I'm like,
I have
I'm like, I'll remember that one.
I have the perfect quote for you, ladies. So I love Eckhart Tolle, and so he posted today, and he said, "Forget about your life situation and pay attention to your life. Your life situation exists in time. Your life is now. Your life situation is mind stuff. Your life is real."
Yeah, I love that.
It's beautiful.
And it made me think of that as you were talking about, right? Because, I feel like, in some realm, I think Laura and I are twins, because like she's talking and I'm like, oh, I can relate to that feeling. I know exactly how that feels. So when you were talking about like, I'm not where I want to be, I need to be somewhere else, right? I think I was sharing with you about the whole overwhelm thing. So I read that quote today and I was like, oh my God, I needed to hear that, Eckhart. And I think that that's kind of like what you're saying too, right? Like there are certain personas or personalities or the way that we've been conditioned, right? Where we want to be here, but we're here. And the fact that we're here and not there, like, is really bothering us. Instead of enjoying the here and the now, we're so like forward looking that we forget to enjoy this very moment. And I feel like that's maybe like a part of what your dreams subconsciously were also trying to impart on you. So and that can manifest in so many different ways. For you, it came through your dreams. For me, it's through like my overwhelm. But it's like, if you ask me about my overwhelm, there's really no explanation for the overwhelm, right? Like there's like, so I love that you ladies are really inspiring me to start a dream journal, because
I'm start one.
because I think like part of my story, like, how we create stories around like, I'm not good at technology, or I am really great at technology, right? These are all stories that we create around ourselves. I think part of my story has been, I can't remember dreams. Nobody ever visits me in my dreams, right? Like I can't, whatever. I don't dream vividly. I know I dream vividly. That is without a question. But I think part of the story I've created is that I can't remember my dreams. So I'm
Yep.
literally going to take a little notebook tonight and I'm putting it down. So can you, for those of us who are novices, how do you propose we do this? So we wake up and we immediately write it down? Like how should this whole, like, help us walk through how we would go about starting this journey?
If you wanted to, since I know you're on a time crunch, and if you, you're not going to carry this journal with you all day whenever one pops up. Cause like I'm always around mine because I work from home. So it's like right next to my desk and I'll just be like, oh, blah, 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 blah. It's a bit handy, but we always have like memory triggers during the day too. But if you wanted
Yes.
to, maybe meditate for a few minutes in the morning, just get away from all the noise, sit for a minute. Of course, when they're fresh on the mind, you want to jot them down. So maybe jot them down and then meditate, or just mix some meditation with it. Meditation is a good one to try to access through the dreams, especially if it's like a little fuzzy and you remember bits and parts of it and you want to try to bring up more. You could try to like reenact it or go back into that dream a tad bit and see what other things come about. If it be a feelings, like feelings are a big one.
She's getting a
Even
notebook.
just
I see her right there. She's like, got a notebook.
Oh, I'm writing down the
She's
notes.
writing this down.
Yeah, I know, seriously.
I love it. I love it.
So some of the things that you've talked, I'm seriously, like, I'm going to take action on this. So some of the things that you talked about was like set intention at night, right? Set intention at night.
I don't have a notebook, but I got a phone with notepad.
yeah. And like just
And-
lay in bed and comfortably meditate and fall asleep even. Then I used to do that when I was trying to really have set an intention for something very specific.
Mhm.
I would do that.
Okay. Okay. So set the intention at night that you want to remember your dream in the morning.
No, you want to have just have awareness.
Have
And
awareness.
it's like did awareness. I always picture like awareness in dreamland, kind of like a muscle a little bit. It takes
Okay.
a couple good pumps to work out, and then
And would it help to kind of like to talk to our guides and to ask for that assistance? Like, hey, will you help? Like, come visit me in my dream. Help me remember. Will that help? Okay.
yeah, always. They are very resourceful.
Okay.
And I always set a rule for unconditional love contact only. Stuff like
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I always do. Like, I learned that from Gabby Bernstein way on.
Oh,
Like,
did she say that too?
She
See,
talks
I
about-
came up with
she
that
said,
myself.
with truth, the highest, what'd she say? Spirit guides of the highest truth and compassion.
Truth and compassion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say unconditional love. I didn't know she said that. Ooh,
Yeah.
see, I was
Yeah.
on a good thing with that one.
And she said that you should always welcome them because they won't, interact with you
Yes.
unless you truly like
Free
Yeah.
will is a
invite them.
huge respect thing. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
So I do ask, but I always use the truth and compassion or something because I don't want bad stuff coming. And I haven't had any bad experiences. It's always been good, but I don't want bad. So I just
Oh, I've had the bad. That's why I
Yeah.
always said unconditional love only.
with unconditional love. That's nice. I'm gonna put that down.
Okay. So we set the intention, we ask for, the guides of the highest truth and compassion with unconditional love to help us with having awareness of our dreams. And then in the morning, I am like a hectic mom. So I wake up, I jump out and I have to start making lunches. Like I meditate after I get everything done with my kids. So
Yeah.
help somebody like me who's this hectic.
Voice
How-
memos that maybe you could do a voice memo that transcribes and you can just kind of briefly do a
Oh.
2-minute note. I know a lot of people that do voice
Oh,
memos.
so we could just use like our phone pad and just like do it. Like if we didn't have to, I'm not
Yeah,
that
you could use your
morning,
phone
but-
and turn it into your journal, and then you could
Yeah.
transcribe it, email it to yourself, however dedicated you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's different.
But this is like, I meditate within the first 15 minutes, 10 if I can. So this is something that we should also do if we can, if we have the time and we're able to do quickly too, right? Why they're there,
Yeah.
why they're fresh. Okay.
Yeah, and then like pay attention during the day. Like a great book to read is No Bad Parts by Richard Schwartz. I use he does the internal family system. Okay, Vicky's
Yeah.
shaking her head. She knows. So
Well,
apply this to your dreams I know, and then you can psychoanalyze yourself a tad bit, right?
Mhm.
And you really, what was I getting at with that? Oh, I had a point to that specifically.
Sorry.
Pay attention to your dreams, you said, throughout the day.
Yeah. Oh, and you'll notice, okay, get to know your internal parts. Familiarize yourself because they show up during the day too. So like, just, we all recognize when our inner child pops in a little bit,
Yeah.
right? Notice when your masculine side pops in a little bit. Notice when your higher self pops in and your feminine side or your intuition. Start recognizing when certain ones tend to come out to the platform. And then even notice how they're feeling. Recognizing yourself on those levels, I noticed actually does really well with dream analysis. And like, because at the end of the day, we are getting to know ourselves with that. And it's not just in dreams. They don't just exist in dreams. They exist during the day too. So it's a whole 360 relationship a little bit.
Richard Swartz. It's W or SW, right? Swartz, SW.
Yeah, CHRTZ. Yeah, I think I said that right.
I think, yeah, I'm sure it'll come up with Google.
Mm.
I've heard of him
Super
before.
popular.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with
it's
the
a great
IFS. I
book.
mean, I heard about that.
And he
So
even offers like meditations on there. So like in his book, and I think he has them on his website too, but you can look him up on YouTube. He does a lot of like he's all over YouTube too. But like if you wanted to do meditations, they're really simple and easy. And I think sometimes they sound harder, but when you do it, he says it's really easy. And I've had my clients practice them, and some of them were already doing it organically. So I didn't even have to, I just like was like, hey, you're doing that meditation that he suggested. So sometimes it's very organic, just talking to yourself in meditation, but pulling up your internal parts. Like I think inner child's the easiest example because it's such a, I just everyone knows their inner child. It's their masculine and feminine, or their yin and yang, that tends to be a little more complicated. But like the inner child, like we can all connect with our inner child and understand our inner child, or what their insecurities are, what their fears were, what they enjoyed, what they were most authentic with, right? But we need to understand that about all of the parts. So
May
it's
I make
kind
a
of,
suggestion? I think that inner child might be a fascinating topic for us to really delve into. Because you just said something and you said everybody knows when their inner child pops up. Everybody doesn't know. It wasn't for a very long time that, like, not until I actually listened to a lot of the podcasts, got acquainted with internally family systems, that I even learned what an inner child and like all the different parts of the internal family systems was all about. And I think that this is
yeah.
such a brilliant body of work that we should maybe one day delve into.
I have a friend who is a coach for the inner child. She might be a good guest for this. She's in Canada.
well, why, you should see if you can talk to her and set that up, and we'll decide. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, she's a good one. And it does work. I think the internal family system is huge when you're going through mental health, any spiritual growth, any awareness. Like you can't avoid yourself. There's that even cute little Disney movie where they're all the emotions inside out. It's kind of its own idea, but instead of being like an internal family system, they're the emotions, and like how they all have their own personalities. And then there's even a part where they get stuck in the unconscious and they get locked in, and he goes, this is where all the exiles go. I go, that's internal family system all day.
Yeah.
I think another good topic might be communicating with spirits. I don't know how many people are into that, but it's something that I know this day and age, more and more people are able to do it, and sometimes they don't even know it. And psychic mediums aren't as required anymore in order to even have a relationship with someone on another vibration. So
because our ego allows it.
Yeah, well, and also our vibration, our collective vibration as a collective is rising. So
the collective
yeah,
consciousness, yeah, that's huge. And like at the same time, I think we all have the skill. So yeah, I think it is the mass collective kind of growing too. But I think I don't know, I always say we live in an ecosystem. If we look at the internal family system as a large scale and not just individually, like our society is so obsessed with facts and proof that you're called crazy or it's paranormal, it's this or that, that we immediately brush it off and we don't allow it to be factual. So people would be shy or insecure to even want to explore that with them themselves. And if they were having strong experiences with it, they'd be too afraid to say anything because they'd be called crazy or something. So like, I think
I
it's
think
coming to surface now because we have
yeah,
a
it's
lot of
changing.
science, and the academic, logical, analytical side of the world is slowly catching up with the intuition.
I
Yeah,
think
and
it's
quantum
changing.
physics. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
changing for sure. I read a quote the other day, and it was in a book I was reading, something about light workers, and I can't remember the exact quote, so I'm paraphrasing, but it was something about like people talking about all the dark stuff that we're seeing on Earth. But they said the thing is, you have to see the darkness in order to get to the light. And because the collective consciousness is raising so quickly right now, we're seeing the darkness come out because we're all like more aware of it, and we're just like noticing it. And it's like, it's kind of the battle. We're getting very woo-woo here, but the battle of good and evil, and like the collective is raising. So now you have the evil stuff that's coming in, and it was like, eventually it's gonna get like, we're moving into the new earth, honestly, but it's just, you know, we have to see the dark stuff coming in. So I don't know. It was, I'm
It's
paraphrasing. It was
true.
cool.
A light does not exist without the darkness.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to have something that can't be the duality
Yeah.
of it. So it's really fun. And it's fun, interesting because I see this come up in like my clients and their sessions. And some of them like don't know any of this, and it just comes out so organically that they're like, I had one client who was like, is there something really going on here on planet Earth? Like the good and the bad, and is it all real? And I was like, because he had a lot of demon stuff for like 20 years in his life, and it manifested physically in his life. So he was like kicking their butts and being a little butt ass. And I told him at one point, I was like, dude, you're hanging out in the ghetto. You need to go up. I was like, just go over the town over. And he kind of laughed at it, but he's like, is there something really going on here? And I was like, there's a lot going on here. Just
Yeah.
imagine walking out the front door and experiencing the life we have here on Earth. It mirrors in the spirit realms too.
Mhm.
There's a lot of variety.
Yeah, I mean, I think that our consciousness is definitely rising, and very quickly too. It's really interesting because whatever, I've had some unpleasant things happen in my life, right? So, and I was like, okay, we got to cleanse the energy in the house. Like, I don't know what is going on around me, but I need this to like stop. So I was like, I need to like clear the energy in my house. And my kids, it's really funny because my teenager, she like totally rejects it, even though she's like such an old soul. And she just like innately gets everything as spiritual. And then I've got my little one who is just like so in touch with her spiritual side. And so she was like, Mommy, I would energy clear with you. And so it was funny because then she's that's to Danny, the little one, right?
Little one, yeah.
So then my older one comes down, she goes, so Mommy, turns out one of my friends' mothers is also crazy like you. And another friend's mother is also crazy like you. I don't know. There are more of you now.
Play
You're
date.
multiplying. She's like, you all are multiplying. And it was so funny. I was dying laughing. But
my kids have told me the same thing. That's so funny. My kids have literally said the same things, like to me, pretty much. Yeah.
Really?
Sage them all. Sage them.
Like your friends are. I bought my sage sticks. I'm like, I don't know if this works, but I need something in my life.
You get like the big ones, the big sage sticks. Have you seen those? They like go over the top of your car and you can like rope them up and just drive them around your neighborhood.
Are you
What
serious?
do you do with that? You burn it for a bonfire? Get sage the whole neighborhood at once?
The whole city. Yeah. Yeah, that's
Oh
funny. No, my daughter,
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say my daughter is like, I think she was like my mother in a past life or something, because she's like a super old soul. I think she's just new to the earth experience because she's like, I know everything, but then she doesn't, right? And she's in her 20s right now. So, but you sit and you talk to her and you're just like, how do you know all this? How do you know all this? She's like, she explains to me what energies of love and the soul and all this stuff. I'm like,
so she is spiritual. So that's funny because like my oldest son, the one that I'm hearing, I don't know, he's not like super into it like me, but like he talks about, like I can sit here and talk to these guys and they're 21 years old and they'll like they're kind of with, I mean, like we can talk about it and but like my other two kids who are 18 and 16, they're just like, you're crazy. You're the crazy mom. And now they're finding out that their friends have crazy moms too. So
That's exactly right. That's exactly like what I'm going through. So I bought 3 sage sticks, right? And so I'm like one per child, what one for each of us. And so they were kind of like, all right, well, let's do this. I'm like, listen, I don't know if this works or not, but like I can get all the help I can get right now. So like, let's do this energy clearing however we can. But
so
no,
did you do it? Did you do it? You
Oh my
did the
God.
whole, you did it.
Not only did I do that, I did the Palo Santo. I got
Did you open
those.
your windows so they could go out?
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah,
A lot of
well,
people forget that part.
I
I always
opened up
use
all the,
Archangel Michael. I'm always like, hey, come
Yes.
clean house.
Yeah.
He does that.
so like I was doing like all that
I just say
stuff.
be gone.
Yes,
Be gone.
gone. And like we were so, and my dog was participating. He was sniffing the stuff. They were like, mommy, dog. So anyways, no, but I have a point to all of this. What I was going to say is, thank you for saying that we should talk about how to connect with your spirit guides and how to like, because I'm almost like embarrassed to admit this, but I have read like so many different explanations of who the spirit guides are. So I would actually love your perspective on that, because some of them have been like, hey, it's like all of you, like it's all you. Then it's been, no, it's the collective consciousness. And then it's been like, no, it's your ancestors. And I'm like, well, which is it? Like, is it
All of it.
I think all
It
of them.
is.
All
It's
of
all
them.
of
All
it.
of it.
Yeah.
Anything
Yeah.
can be a guide, yeah.
Yeah, like is it all of the above? So I mean, I would love for us to just kind of like demystify that, right? Number one. Number two, the only reason that I know a little bit about like connecting with spirit guides is just because of Gabby Bernstein, because she's super into that, right? But I think that this is like a really interesting topic. I added it to our topical spreadsheet, so it's in there. And we will definitely, I think we should definitely delve into
We
it.
could talk about this stuff probably. We could literally turn this into like 3 episodes. I feel like for me anyway, and I feel like you guys do, we could turn it into like 3 episodes. Like this is where I'm like, I love it. I'm all about it. I know you guys are too. So
Yeah. Yeah. So I added it. And I think that this is something that we should cover, because there's so much that is beyond the veil that we don't see.
Yeah, it's important too, because
That should be the
as
name
you
of
know,
it.
yeah, as we're on the journey of our conscious awareness coming more clear, we're stepping into awareness of the guides. I used to like just wonder who my guides were, and now I know who they are. Like that's part of the evolution of, we're not learning really anything, we're just becoming more aware of that company that we have. And it's amazing when you can actually learn to have the conversations and ask for the guidance. And that's part of one of the reasons why I'm not so scared about life like I used to be. It's like, oh, my guide's got my back, like I'm okay. My ego will just scare me if I let it, but my guides know where I'm going. So I'm just gonna, I say faith it until you make it, right? Because it works for me. So yeah, I'd love to do a talk about that. But getting back to dreams,
yeah, we diverged.
I just want to, yeah, just a little bit. The reason I brought up spirits is because there's so many of us who have lost loved ones or will lose loved ones. And I was just going through the dream journal that I made. And I wanted to read this to you briefly before we end, because this is the impact that the dreams could have. I had a friend, her name was Patricia, and she was actually my first client ever that I ever did. Aside from after I left the legal field, I met Patricia. She had cancer when I met her, and I was just working with her through trauma recovery and through multiple remissions. And she had to go through multiple treatments of this cancer, like going on and off and on and off, like the whole time I met her, for probably 3 or 4 years or knew her. But I talked to her literally like every day on text. If they wouldn't have heavily medicated her, I would have talked to her till the day she died, because she lives in Canada. But I told her, I said she was terrified of dying, and I said, it's okay, I'm here, because I had, like Chelsey, I have a good relationship with death too. And I said, if you do end up crossing over to the other side, just send me bluebirds. And she's like, okay, so while she was alive, we established that that synchronicity, or whatever you want to call it, or that mode of communication. And so I never really saw Bluebird, except for maybe once or twice, like on the back fence. And I always think about her, right? So I was just flipping through this dream journal, and I had gone on a backpacking trip back in August of 2021. She had just died in February this year. So this is actually pretty old. But it said that on while I was backpacking that night, I had a dream that somebody asked me how much for a bluebird. I told the lady I didn't know, but I remembered that I had one. I didn't realize that it was valuable. So I looked into a screen or an iPad or some device to check on it, and saw that it was still alive, yet it was very fragile and hungry. It was very frail. So I began to nourish it, and it began to get healthy. Unfortunately, the bluebird ended up dying. The strange part is, on my way back from the hike, so that was the dream. On my way back from the hike, I saw a lady with a shirt that said "Lessons from a Bluebird." And that's what her shirt said, "Lessons from a Bluebird." I said, I came home and I looked this up on the internet, and the shirt says, "Rise early, spread a little happiness, keep a song in your heart, think spring." I'm gonna cry, you guys. "Be colorful, feather your nest with friendships. The sky is the limit." So I just wanted to share that, because I'm
That's
like,
beautiful.
my heart was just like, there's those moments where you just know, right? That you just know, like, that's something she totally would have said to me too. So that was actually a good find.
That was a few years before too, so it was kind of a
Mhm.
premonition of it all, and you're subconsciously said bluebird without much thought, probably because it was already built into you knew.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. And I just
That's
picked this
freaking
up today
beautiful.
to show you guys. I was like, I know I have a dream journal somewhere. I recommend everybody have one. So yeah.
Yes, you learn so
I got
much.
cold chills. Like I
That's
literally, when you said
amazing.
that, my arm goosebumps everywhere. Sorry,
This
go
is
ahead.
why I love dream analysis. Coolest freaking job ever.
Okay, I just added one more topic to our spreadsheet. I'm sorry, it keeps growing, but whoever is listening, please know that we're going to have so many topics that we're going to be covering on our
Never enough.
podcast. It's unbelievable. But I think it's going to be really interesting to talk about, like, signs and synchronicity too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because as you're talking, so I can't believe what you just said. And I'll tell you something really interesting. So your story, like, totally gave me goosebumps, but it took me back to, so I had been resistant to getting a dog for a really, really long time. So my daughter is 11 years old, and for 10 out of the 11 years, ever since she was able to speak, she's been begging me for a dog. And finally last year, I caved in. So COVID was over. We were back in the office, and then I agreed to getting a dog.
Perfect timing.
You can all see the logic and the way I function. But I was on a run, and we found like the breed that we wanted and whatever. And I was like so struggling with this decision, because it was a really big decision for me, like logistically and like in every way. And I said, thank you, universe, for showing me a sign of a bluebird if I should get a dog, if I should get this dog. Literally, I'm running, and there is a bluebird, like blue as the sky. Like, you can't mistake that this is blue, right? Within minutes. And I'm like, yep. But the interesting thing is, and I'd love for us to delve into it, I feel like signs is also our higher self communicating with us.
Oh yeah.
And reinforcing to us what we already know. There was an element, there was something in me that was already convinced that maybe a dog was a really great idea. and something that would be good. But it's almost like I needed that reinforcement. And so I asked for the sign and I got the reinforcement, and it was almost like a permission and a green light for it, right? It was like that great, so I'd love for us to maybe explore signs too, and how do you work with signs and how do you
Oh,
communicate?
we need to do it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because I mean, I told you guys, and we can talk all day about it, but my sign I've asked for before has been sunflowers, and I wasn't even asking for, but when we first decided to do these classes, I told you guys, like I went to a patient's home, I never would have even been there. It was like a fluke that I was even there, and literally it was an apartment complex. Every apartment complex had sunflowers like plastered outside. There were like hundreds of sunflowers everywhere, and I was just like, holy shit. So yeah, I mean, we're diverging again, I know, but like let's do the topic.
No, that's hilarious, Chrissy, because I planted sunflowers not last year or not this year. I planted them the year before, like sunflower seeds. I got like red ones and big giant yellow ones, and we pulled the seeds out, and then I just put them in bags, and because they grow so big, and so I didn't plant any. I didn't plant any this year. But they decided to grow anyway, because we saw like these two little sprouts in the flower garden, and Robert's like, yeah, those are sunflowers. I was like, okay, well, we'll just let them grow. So like the seeds must have fallen out, right, from the ones before. But they grew ginormously, you guys. They filled up the whole garden. Like, these are the kind of sunflowers that grows like the multiple heads, and they shoot in every direction. So I grew like tomatoes, and they're like all squished, and the sunflowers, just 2 sunflower seeds took over everything. They ended up in the side garden over here. I don't know if the birds got into the seeds, but I've got sunflowers in the most random places. So I think that's kind of funny that
Oh my
was a
gosh,
sign.
another
Yeah.
synchronicity. And then
Yeah.
they talked about the bluebird, which was the thing that you
Mhm.
said in your like, it's crazy. This is crazy. Like, you can't make it up. You can't
You
make
can't make this stuff up.
you can't make it up.
Oh my God. All right. So
Okay.
we are at over an hour and a half. We had
Okay.
like almost an hour and a half, but
Well, does anybody have any questions? I know we've got a few on YouTube as well. If you have any questions, now's a good time. I also know we wanted to talk about our podcast, since we're moving over to a podcast format. Not right now. We'll be sure to tell you when we will be doing that, but it's in the work. So it's going to be really amazing, because we'll have a time limit, so you'll know exactly how long the episodes are. It'll be, available on Spotify, Amazon, Google Podcast, all those areas and platforms. So yeah, that is in the works and coming soon. So if you'd like to add any topics, the best email address, I have an email address I could shoot out there. It's super easy. It's Laura, Lora @outlook.com. So you can shoot over any topics that you want us to cover. That's my personal email, so feel free to send it there.
Put any, like, if anybody on here like thinks of something right now, you could even type it in the YouTube, or I guess you could always comment. Like, if you guys see this on YouTube and you just want to type something, I mean, Vicky will see it even later. You guys catch this video at a later time, just type it in the comments.
Yeah, and I do, Chelsey, if somebody wanted to work with you, how do they get a hold of you?
ChelseyTurpeningCoxsey.com, and I did type in my website in one of the comments on this video, so look in the comments for the link.
where in the comments? I'm looking for it.
Yeah, I can never pronounce your and Vicky's last names. Like, I can never pronounce them, so I'm just like, I just skip the last name. I was like, I don't know. These are my girls.
By looking in the comments. Okay. All right, I'm putting that in. So for how we could be reached. Okay.
Yes, hope to see somebody. That would be fun. It gets fun.
Yes. Well, you're amazing. You're so amazing, Chelsey. And this was such a fascinating conversation.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm glad we lost our special guest, but this was just perfect.
Yeah, it was still fun. And I think we learned a lot. I know I know that I have had some trouble with their dreams and remembering, and Vicky has too. So I think you totally helped both of us. And I think I won't be starting my journal tonight because I want my sons and I don't have one, but I will be If I wake up though, I mean, I might post it on my phone if I remember something, just type it
Yeah.
on my phone. But I don't know if I'll dream up here. I'm not sure. So I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna set intentions and. do
All right.
that.
It does take a few days. It took me a few days.
Okay.
It wasn't like I
Mhm.
woke up and remembered my dream
Okay.
the next day. So it took me, I don't know, you just keep doing it, be consistent.
doing it.
And
Okay.
that was what my experience was. So
Cool.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
not like a boom thing for everybody. Sometimes
Okay.
it might be, but yeah.
It's like a muscle is what I say. You're
Yeah.
not going to go to the gym and, hit your max weight right
Yeah.
away.
Okay, cool.
Work
So
up to it.
for those of us who are new to this, I wrote out the steps, and the steps are: 1, set intention. So set the intention at night in your nightly meditation. Maybe you fall asleep into it, but set the intention to have awareness of your dreams. And then in the morning, when you wake up, write down what you remember throughout the day. Keep your journal close by. Also jot down. And then this is going to take a little bit to ease into it, but with time, you will start to remember more and more. Connect with your guides, connect with yourself, connect with your loved ones, and just pay attention. I wrote it down. Pay attention to your dreams throughout the day and get to know your parts, the internally family system parts.
Yeah.
Very
Yay.
Love
Yay.
that.
This was
All
so
right.
informative. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And come back next Wednesday, 8:30 East Coast time, 5:30 Pacific time, for another incredible and engaging topic to be announced.
That's right.
All right.
Bye everyone.
Bye, guys.
Have a
Bye,
good
ladies.
night.
Everyone.
Have a great, everybody.